It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Yeah! We ain't dead yet. Welcome to Rico Brogna. The New York Mets won a game at Citi Field. They scored a lot of freaking runs, and it's off to Los Angeles for a Game 6 of the National League Championship Series. Welcome to a instant reaction to Game 5 of Rico Brogna. This may be one of the only times where we are recording live from the WFAN studios. This was a 5 o'clock game. I was on the air for a few hours of said game, and then hung out here with the great Pete Hoffman and watched the conclusion of the Mets' victory 12-6 over the Los Angeles Dodgers. So we're recording this live from WFAN. It's been a long-ass day. It's been a long-ass year. And as long as this season has been, because I was thinking about this, today could have been the last game of the Mets season. That thought did pop into my head as I woke up this morning, as I was taking a shower, as I was in the bathroom, as I was talking to my wife, talking about the day. I said, honey, there's a chance I come home tonight and the New York Mets will not be playing baseball. So that thought popped into my head. And it has been a long season. Think back to some of the Rico Brognas, for those that were watching or listening, all the way back in February. Hoff and I are breaking down spring training battles and stupid spring training games that don't even matter, or at least right now feel so irrelevant and so meaningless. And yet the New York Mets today were facing a moment and a challenge where that was going to be it, where this season was going to end. And we were going to debate, I guess, for weeks and months, was this a good season? Are we happy with this season? Are we devastated by this season? And obviously then pivoting to the offseason. But as I sat down at about 2 o'clock and I got ready to do the radio program, I did have a thought. I had an epiphany. And hopefully it's the same thought that we all had as Met fans, that you may be having right now if you're leaving Citi Field. Honk your horn if you're leaving Citi Field. And that thought is, I'm not ready for the season to be over. I'm not ready. Look, I know this season may end with the Mets not winning a world championship, something I've never seen and a lot of us have never seen. I don't know when it's going to end. But what I know is that Friday, October, whatever today is, the 18th, I think, or the 9th, I don't even know. That was not the day. Citi Field was not the place. We've seen way too many teams celebrate on our home field. If you want me to remind you, you already know. The San Diego Padres, the San Francisco Giants, the Kansas City Royals, the St. Louis Cardinals, the goddamn New York Yankees. They've all celebrated ending our season and celebrated some kind of accomplishment on our field. And that could not happen on a late Friday afternoon against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kudos to David Peterson. And I know that seems like such a weird place to start, but here's why I want to give major credit to David Peterson, despite overall twirling a very disappointing game. He couldn't get through the fourth inning. He walked 4 guys. He walks Betts and Teoscar Hernandez back-to-back with a big lead. So I don't want to necessarily celebrate David Peterson's performance, but here's what I will celebrate. Go back to the top of the first inning of this game. Go back to how you felt. This game starts. The Mets have had their asses pounded over the last 2 games, okay? They have been killed the last 2 games. They are playing from behind the last 2 games. And when Shohei Ohtani hits a ground ball up the middle for a base hit, and then Mookie Betts hits a fly ball to right field that, I'm sorry, Starling Marte needs to catch. It's a tough time to criticize Starling Marte, who knew he would have 4 hits in this game, including 3 doubles. But in the moment, would you? And there's second and third, nobody out with Teoscar Freeman and Tommy Edman coming up. What'd you think? Two nothing. Maybe it's worse than that. They're going to fall behind, and this offense is going to have to grab those bats a little bit tighter, those runners in scoring position opportunities, which will come, but there'll be more pressure with that. It was so important for David Peterson to somehow, with second and third, nobody out, get through that first inning. That was so damn important. And think about how he did it. He got Teoscar Hernandez to ground out the shortstop. I don't know why the contact play wasn't on and Ohtani wasn't trying to score, but not my freaking problem. Freddie Freeman, who has haunted our dreams for many, many years, hits a line drive. Luckily, it's right at Pete Alonso. And then David Peterson, against the guy who's been a real pain in this series, Tommy Edman, strikes him out. What a gutsy first inning by David Peterson. It is easy to remember the other stuff that David Peterson did, like spiking a ball in the dirt that allowed the Dodgers to score a run in the second inning, or giving up the home run, the first of two, that Andy Pages would eventually hit. And it's easy to pick on him walking back-to-back guys with a big lead. And all that deserved criticism, by the way. I get it. But I think what he accomplished getting out of that first inning was very, very important. And for me at least, will not be forgotten in this kind of win. It's 0-0 in the bottom of the first inning. When they're a second and third and nobody out, and it's created by a ground ball that finds a hole and a fly ball that the right fielder needs to catch, you're destined to be trailing in this game. So for the bad that David Peterson ended up giving you, I think overall that first inning was monumental. I'm sorry, I am losing my voice, which is why I don't know how long this Rico is going to go. Plus, I do want to get home. So hopefully my voice doesn't go in the next 25, 30 minutes, but it's struggling. And I think it's just being worn down, all of us. If you've been out to Citi Field, or you're dealing with the stress of watching this team, or you're working hard all day, I don't know, it just wears you down. But as good as it was for Peterson to give you that very important settle down moment from that first inning, what was also going to be important was, can this offense score? Can they figure out a guy in Jack Flaherty who was utterly brilliant when the Mets saw him in Los Angeles? He was great. He was fantastic. He pitched 7 scoreless innings. The Mets didn't do much against Jack Flaherty. Were the Mets going to be able to take advantage of seeing this guy 5 days earlier and actually produce off of him? Francisco Lindor leadoff base hit. Brandon Nimmo walk. Vientos flied out to left field. I thought off the bat he may have had a chance to give it a ride. And then our guy, Pete Alonso. Peter Alonso. A man who may have hit his last home run at Citi Field. That's on the table. I don't know what's going to happen in LA. There's a decent chance the Mets don't play another game at Citi Field. There's a decent chance that Pete Alonso would end his Met career at Citi Field by hitting a 3-run home run in the first inning and getting another base hit later and scoring 4 times in this game. I don't want to think about that. I've tried not to think about that. But I think when you get closer to the end, and by the end, I mean, we're in the NLCS. Like, there's only one other place to go after this, and that's a World Series. You do start to think about that kind of stuff. But what I really appreciate about Pete Alonso is that this season was not a great year. I don't think anybody would call it a great year. He was not very clutch this season. We talked about that a lot. We even did an entire Rico analyzing every home run he hit and debating, was that a clutch home run? Was that a non-clutch home run? Was that a crap home run? That's what Pete Alonso did to us this season in terms of debating his performance. In this postseason that got off to a slow start, Pete Alonso has answered the questions. He answered it in Game 3 against the Brewers in maybe the most impactful home run in the history of the franchise. He answered that with the home run he hit against the Phillies in Game 3 of the division series. And you know what? When you've got your backs to the wall and you're down 3-1 in the National League Championship Series, and you're facing an offense that's almost impossible to hold down, we saw that all game long. This was a damn important 3-run home run by Pete Alonso. And it's funny. I think I get reflective thinking about a long season when you may be at the end. When we did that podcast off about important home runs, I remember saying, hey, first inning home runs are damn important. I mean, setting the tone for a game matters. So no matter what that final score is, in this case 12-6, can anybody tell me that in a Game 5 of the NLCS with their backs to the wall, Pete Alonso hitting a 3-run home run in the first inning wasn't a big effing deal? You know it is.
It's definitely the biggest deal. Listen, this playoff has been the most important Met besides Mark Vientos. And every time he hits the ball, every at bat, it's been a big deal. Like whether the home run itself was obviously unbelievable, with the positioning and whatnot. But yeah, like he's setting a tone. And for anybody that thinks that this guy should not get the accolades and he doesn't deserve, dude, they've been wrong all season long.
I think
he's impactful.
I think he's answered the questions. And by the way, Pete is in the producer area while we record this. Pete, you could sit next to me, bro. Why don't you come on in? And here's the truth. I'll give you a little behind the scenes on why I'm saying that to Pete. I actually didn't hear a word of what he just said. I had to read his lips to hear what he said. And I'm actually a pretty damn good read lipper. So what I heard was, it was crazy people killed Pete Alonso. He set the tone for the game. He basically put Pete Alonso over. But I was reading his lips to get the answer. And then very casually, very calmly, I'm like, hey, Pete, why don't you come on in? So I can actually hear you speak.
Well, to be fair,
that was pretty good though, right?
That was awesome. But to be fair, I'm having technical issues on my end. You're sounding fine, but I didn't go as well as planned. I thought this was going to be a perfect Rico with the mics, but I'm having issues with it.
Oh, really?
I'm a little transparent. You're fine. People hear you, but it's not as perfect as I like.
Oh, I apologize. Well, we apologize. So we have to, around this playoff schedule, do the best we can, and we want to be timely about the Rico Brogna, as timely as we can be. And so with this game going on while I was on the air, I wasn't going home. I'll tell you that right now. My wife understood. She was very sweet about it. She says, watch the rest of the game and then Rico, your heart's desire. So we apologize if everything isn't perfect. But Pete's home run set the tone. But the other thing that was really, really important, and you quickly realized it was going to be necessary, was 3 runs was not going to be enough. It wasn't. Even when they scored the 5 in the 3rd inning, 8 runs didn't feel like it was going to be enough. And what the Mets were able to do in this game that was so important that they really weren't able to do in game 2, the other game in this series that they won, was pile it on. Because when you face the Los Angeles Dodgers, I don't know if there's a number that's truly enough. Like, I don't know if, 7 or 8 runs is necessarily going to win you a game because they're that good offensively. So what was so inspiring about this Met team is that not only do you get the 3 in the first, they blew an opportunity in the second because Alvarez got that leadoff double. By the way, for everyone who wanted to bench Alvarez, let's all take a W on those who didn't, because Francisco Alvarez has rewarded that. Since the debate on if they should play him or sit him, he is 4 for his last 5 and has been on base 5 times. So offensively, I think Alvarez has answered the call. And that's why it is so difficult sometimes to decide between, hey, a guy isn't performing, I have to try something, and then also staying loyal with guys who've been here all year. It's a tough decision. Mendy had to make that decision about Jose Iglesias today, where he sits Jeff McNeil for Iglesias. And he was sort of rewarded. Like, I don't want to rip Jeff McNeil. He was 0 for 3 with 2 sacrifice flies. Look, sacrifice flies matter, and I think they're important. I don't know what Jose Iglesias would have done in this game. Maybe it would have been better. I have no idea. But it's a tough line between deciding to sit guys and play guys, especially when they've done it all year. The Jesse Winker, J.D. Martinez thing, that's not a decision. And I don't want to waste my breath on it anymore. Jesse Winker needs to be the left-handed DH in Game 6 and in Game 7. Period. Stop. J.D. Martinez can only see the field if he's pinch hitting late in the game. And by the way, I'm not even sure I would do that. The Dodgers literally have one left-hander on their roster in Anthony Banda. So Jesse Winker is facing Banda in the 6th inning of a game. They have to pinch hit? Maybe you do. Let's see the situation. Let's see the scenario. The point is, I love you, Carlos. I do. You've done a great job as the manager of this team. The one thing I cannot wrap my head around is the insistence you had on sticking with J.D. Martinez in games 3 and 4. I cannot for the life of me figure it out. And I don't want to be annoyed about it anymore because you went to Winker in Game 5, and look what he does. RBI triple. Gets on base 4 times. I mean, what are we talking about here? So I hope we never have to have that discussion again. But back to my original point. The Mets tacked on, and they needed to. After they failed to score in the 2nd inning, they load the bases up. Right? I should say they get the first 2 guys on base in the 3rd inning with walks against Flaherty. And here's Starling Marte who had 3 doubles in this game. Here's Francisco Alvarez coming up with a 2-out hit. Here's Francisco Lindor coming through with an RBI triple. Here's Brandon Nimmo coming through with an RBI single. The Mets get 3 consecutive RBI hits. 3 runs come in, all with 2 outs. That is clutch hitting. And that is why there was a level of confidence I had going into this game. I talked about it on the air for anyone that was listening, which was if you put enough traffic on the bases with a team like this, a Met team that's earned it. They've earned our trust and respect. You got to believe they're going to break through. You can't think they're going to go down going 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. And they didn't. And then they tacked on in the 4th. Pete Alonso gets hit by a pitch. Okay. Jesse Winker RBI triple. Tyrone Taylor gets hit by a pitch. You got 1st and 3rd, 1 out. Okay. Jeff McNeil sacrifice fly. And you could tell really in the 4th and 5th innings, Dodgers were not going to make this easy. They weren't. And we got a ton of email. I was talking to Pete about this. It's tough sometimes. And this is a testament to the Rico audience. We love you. It's tough sometimes to go through the email because it's like we're getting spammed. Good spam. It's people commenting, talking about the game. So it's very tough when we're doing a Rico to say, all right, let me go to this one. Let me go to that one. Let me go to this one. In fact, I got a random one for you. Yeah. This is from Joe Raines. Joe Raines writes, hey, Evan and Pete, it's the bottom of the 6th inning. The Mets lead 11-6. And I know, like you, this 5-run lead is not enough. This is why I picked this email, because I don't think any lead ever felt like enough. We needed to be an 8-run lead. This Dodger offense is downright scary, and facts are facts. The Met pitching staff is not good enough to contain the Dodgers. If the Mets have any chance of extending this series, it's going to have to be a slugfest every game. 11 runs and a 5-run lead with 9 outs to go, and it feels like a 1-run game. Hopefully they can figure it out. I'm not confident, but cautiously optimistic. I think most Met fans would admit that not that you thought we would lose up 11-6, not that you thought we would lose when it got to 10-5, or whatever part of the game you want to point towards, but you knew it wouldn't be easy. And you knew you'd sweat just a little bit. And the truth is, when Mookie hit the home run in the 6th, and all of a sudden at that point, you're looking at a 10-6 game. A game that was 10-2 is now 10-6, and you're still 12 outs away. Those 12 outs felt like a country mile. And I made a comment to Pete right after the home run. I said, Pete, I don't think it matters the score. Yeah. I think Edwin Diaz has to come in for a 6-out save or a 6-out performance, because it may not even be a save situation, as it turned out. And Mendy and I were thinking on the same page, because there are so few arms in this bullpen you can trust that while you may not love Edwin Diaz or believe in Edwin Diaz, dude, he's their best option. And you saw that, because the only time in this game where I got relaxed, and I could see it in Pete's eyes where he got relaxed, is when Edwin Diaz came in and went to work.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was
totally relaxed, but he did put the ball over the plate. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is like you need to have Lindor basically talking to him, be like, just do what you do best. Put it over the plate. Let them try to hit it. They're not going to do it. I mean, the Ohtani struck out got to be generated.
Yeah. Well, because I think seeing anyone get Shohei Ohtani out is like, whoa, that's kind of amazing. Though the first guy who got him out was it Ryan Stanek? Yeah, it was Ryan Stanek. Got him out when he came in the 5th inning, and he struck Ohtani out. So Ryan Stanek was able to do it, and then Edwin Diaz was able to do it a few innings later. But getting Ohtani out almost feels like a celebration, because he's always on base. He's either hit the ball over the fence or he's drawing a walk, because the Mets are being really careful with him. But you look at the way this bullpen was handled today. So David Peterson did not have it. And really where David Peterson needed to come out of this game is when he walks Betts and Teoscar back-to-back in the 4th inning. At that point, if you're Carlos Mendoza, and you're up 8-2 in this game, it's still a big lead, but it's early. And the scary part about big leads, and I feel this way even when you're losing, is one big 3-run home run and you're back in the game. That's all it takes. It doesn't take a lot to get back into a game, which is exactly what the Dodgers ended up doing. Will Smith hits a home run, all of a sudden it's 10-5, they're back in the game. So if you're Mendy, you can't screw around in an elimination game. You cannot walk Mookie Betts and Teoscar Hernandez back-to-back. Now he goes to Reed Garrett. It's funny, and I'll cite this conversation again. I confronted the great Sal Licata because Sal was ripping Reed Garrett on the air. And I get it. Reed Garrett gave up a home run to Kiki Hernandez. I'm not defending him for that. What I said to Sal was, I don't think you're being fair to Reed. He's actually pitched well. And I cited him the numbers. I said, Sal, he hasn't allowed a run in 18 of his last 19 performances. And Sal had like the best New York response. He's like, I don't care about that. He sucks. Now, look, sometimes that's tough to respond to. And he's like wrong but right. It's one of those weird things where he's wrong in that Reed Garrett was actually one of the Mets' more reliable pitchers over the last few weeks. But where he's right is that in this moment of need, he just sucked. He gives up the home run to Kiki Hernandez, and I thought he gave you a half good, half bad performance. Because remember, he comes in to a bases-loaded 2-out jam facing Freddie Freeman. It's 8-2. The Dodgers are a swing away in the fourth inning. It's early enough where they're back in the game. So I think we'd all admit, even Sal would admit, that's a big spot in the game. Now, you don't have a lot of great options to go to. Reed Garrett is probably one of your best options, as crazy as that is. And Reed Garrett struck out Freddie Freeman on a 3-2 pitch. That's a huge out. So that's where I say, hey, that's the good of Reed Garrett. The bad of Reed Garrett is that when you have a big lead and now you have a clean inning, if guys are going to get hits off you, fine. You cannot put guys on base for free. You can't walk them. You can't hit them. And he did both. He hit Kiki Hernandez, probably bitter about the home run he gave up. And then he actually was ahead 0-2, so that's not true. I'm just being a jerk. And then he walks Max Muncy. You can't do that. Like, bro, you have a 6-run lead. You can't do that because here's the risk with doing that. Andy Pages, who all of a sudden is freaking Juan Gonzalez, hits a 3-run home run. So you didn't give up 3 hits. You put guys on base, and only 1 swing is how you gave up the 3 runs. So I even texted Sal and I said, yeah, Reed Garrett sucks. He sucked in that 5th inning, but he did get a huge strikeout in that 4th inning. And there aren't many guys in this bullpen right now, as sad as this is, that are better than Reed Garrett.
What's the circle of trust look like these days?
The circle of trust is Edwin Diaz. The circle of trust is Ryan Stanek. I mean, you want to put a Phil Maton in there? Okay, I guess. Like, there's a lot of, I guess, circle of trusts. Reed Garrett's almost in the default circle of trust. There just aren't a lot of guys in this bullpen right now that are very good. And that's why I said this a few days ago. I'll say it again. This season is on the shoulders of Edwin Diaz. Well, it may not be. I mean, the Mets could literally lose 8-0 in Game 6. But you know what I mean? Like, if they're going to win games and they're going to get big outs from their bullpen, and they're going to need to, because I don't think Sean Manaea is pitching 9 innings in Game 6. They're going to need Edwin Diaz. They're going to need the best of Edwin Diaz. And to Edwin's credit, when they went to him in the 8th inning, which was the right move, he was great. Look, he faced 7 guys. He got 6 of them out. He got Ohtani out. He got Mookie Betts out. Like, he did an amazing job, and he's going to have to do the same thing in Game 6. That's just the reality. But Ryan Stanek did a great job, too. What Ryan Stanek did well is not only does he come in and end the 5th inning by striking out Ohtani, but in the 6th inning, he attacked. Like, Ryan Stanek made the decision. If I give up runs, it's going to be, you hit the ball off me. I'm not giving you free bases. So when he gives up the home run to Mookie Betts, which, yeah, caused some indigestion, good attack. Then he strikes out Teoscar, blows a fastball right by him. And he strikes out Freddie Freeman. I think he blew a fastball by him, too. And he got Tommy Edman to fly out. Ryan Stanek came into this game and did it in the 7th. I mean, Ryan Stanek got 7 outs in this game, which is crazy to think about. He attacked. And that's what you have to do with a big lead. So I think the formula, when you look at this game and you look at Game 6 and you look at Game 7, and this may sound obvious, they have to score runs. Like, the idea that the Mets are winning a 2-1 game or a 3-2 game, or dare I say a 4-3 game, it feels crazy right now. The Dodger offense is so locked in. Think about what they did offensively in this series, just these 3 games here at Citi Field, and throw in what they did in Game 1. Like, their offense is really tough to bring down. And I think this Met pitching, they had a great run. They did. They had a great stretch. But they're not that good. That's the reality. Like, I think they've been better than what they truly are. Here's all that matters, though. Because me saying what they truly are, look, there's 2 games that they have to win. Win 2 freaking games. That's it. Find a way in Los Angeles, California, where the Mets have won playoff games before, to win 2 games. You do that, then who cares if the Dodgers have a better roster? Who cares if the Met pitching is running on fumes? None of that matters. Win 2 games. And what they were able to do for the Citi Field faithful on this Friday afternoon is allow us to dream and hope that they can go to California and just win a game and then put us in a position to be in a Game 7 of the NLCS, which is a rare thing. The Mets have only had 2 Game 7s of NLCSs in our entire history. That's it. 1988 in LA did not work out. 2006 against the Cardinals did not work out. We've never won a Game 7 of an LCS. Make that different this year. And this game gave us hope. How you feeling, Pete? Feeling good?
I'm feeling very good. I can't wait to take a day off tomorrow, relax, not watch any of my teams lose. It will be good.
Yeah, we may actually need an off day from Rico Brogna. I know that may be disappointing to some, but this has been quite a run we've been on, and my voice is about to die. I think I've told my wife I'm going to try not to talk very much this weekend, which she's excited about. But obviously, after Game 6, which is going to be a nuts night because the Jets are playing at the same time, we'll obviously have an instant reaction, Rico Brogna, to Game 6 right after the game is over. And hopefully, we'll be able to have a Game 7. That's the hope. That's the dream. But I am proud that the Mets did not allow their season to end in the mockery that it felt like it may end in. With the way Game 3 went, with the way Game 4 went. They responded. They gave us a little bit more hope. And while I'm not brimming with confidence that they are going to win those 2 games in LA, I like the fact that when I put my head on the pillow Friday night, when you put your head on the pillow Saturday night, we could at least dream of completing the first ever 3-1 comeback in the history of the New York Mets. This team has a chance to do that.
You know what I'm proud of?
What's that?
Bob Husler being on camera, because that was badass.
That is true. The great Bob Husler, WFAN legend, was shown on the Fox broadcast right before Mookie Betts grounded out to end the 8th inning.
And Harris Allen, too.
And Harris Allen, the great Harris Allen as well. I took a snapshot of that. I'll tweet that out later. Either way, we do appreciate all the emails, all the interactions. Thank you very much for being involved with Rico Brogna. Of course, you can download the podcast wherever you download your podcast. I'm going to try to rest this voice up because God knows we got a Game 6 to talk about, baby. Thank you very much for listening, downloading, and subscribing to a happy edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.